Welcome to Come Heal Yourself with Monica Goyle on OMTimes Radio. Monica is a spiritual counselor and healer with a life purpose to put people in touch with their innate healing abilities, empowering them to live a life full of joy, love, peace, and abundance. Through this show, you'll learn to heal every aspect of your life by connecting to your higher self. And now your host, Monica Goyle.
Come heal yourself. I am so excited about today's show guest and the show because all of us have felt stuck at one time or another, and maybe you are stuck right now. And we all know that feeling of not knowing what to do next and how to break out of the same old patterns of behavior. So enough of that listening to the negative chatter that tells us we are not enough. Let's welcome Alex Bratty and move from chaos to clarity. That's Alex's best-selling book. Welcome, Alex.
Hi, Monica. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you so much. We are so excited. I can tell you, I have been waiting for this. And I am ready to move. Great. So tell us about yourself, Alex. Tell us how and what led you to this.
Well, yeah, to write the book, I wanted to help empower people who feel stuck and frustrated with where their life is at right now, and to show them that they can truly create the life they want. I know firsthand how it feels to be stuck. And it wasn't until I started my own personal development journey and started to gain more self-awareness about sort of the things that I was creating in my life and how I could actually change them, that I began to understand how to unravel this feeling of stuck. And now, as someone who has gotten herself unstuck and as a coach helping people navigate their challenges, I wanted to share what I've learned and provide the tools for others so they can get unstuck a lot easier and faster than I was able to.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it took me several years to do it. And so the book, From Chaos to Clarity, Getting Unstuck and Creating a Life You Love, it essentially addresses all those stuck feelings and issues head on, and it provides a roadmap for how to get unstuck and take back control so you can get your life moving in the direction that you want it to.
That's awesome, Alex. Thank you so much. And we are so looking forward to learn from you. So tell me, I know you were in a corporate job. How did you muster the courage to leave a high-paying job? What led you to, what were your experiences and how were you able to do it? Because so many of us are not able to do it. We want to, but there are so many ifs and buts, and that, safety net that job provides.
Yeah, yes, it's very scary. And I was in this situation. From the outside, it looked like I had the perfect kind of setup, right? I had the big job. I was a partner in a prestigious research firm in DC, and I was traveling all over the country. I had a very lucrative book of business. I was building clients. And so it kind of, from the outside, it's like, well, gee, what's wrong with that? You look like you've got it made. But for me personally, I was kind of miserable. Didn't enjoy being away from my family so much. The volume of the work was grinding me down, and I also wasn't finding fulfillment anymore. It would have been one thing if I was still really enjoying it and really putting my heart and soul into it, but that's not what was happening. I was not fulfilled at all. And so I realized I was basically living Einstein's definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Right.
And I really did feel, and I think a lot of people whether you're in corporate America or not, just in their jobs or their profession these days, feel like a hamster on a wheel, right? And I was burned out. I was basically miserable in this life that I created for myself. And it got to the point where I knew that something had to change. Well, that's a pivotal moment, because if I wanted it to change, I knew that it was up to me to make those changes. No
Mm-hmm.
one else was going to make them. Nothing was going to change unless I did it. So I started seeing a coach. I started on my own journey of self-discovery.
Mm-hmm.
I learned how to reprogram many of those self-sabotaging and limiting beliefs I'd been walking around with, and how to open up to other possibilities. And once I did this, and I started to understand that I had the power to create my life the way I wanted it, that I didn't just have to get on with it and suck it up and deal with it, that I could actually create a life I wanted, then I knew I couldn't stay where I was, right? It was
Yeah.
sort of that moment where you realize, oh, well, if that's all true and I see that it is, then I can't stay here anymore. It's time for me to step in start from the darkness, which is where I was, and
Mm-hmm.
into the light, and start building a life that works for me, that's in alignment with what I wanted to do and something that would fulfill me.
But Alex, tell me, along the way, there must have been a lot of confusion, turmoil, fog. I mean, if this is right, even when you took the first step, after that, there would have been some phases where you were like unsure, or was it like very clear for you?
Oh, it was incredibly confusing. It was not an overnight thing at all. In fact, it took me a year to make my decision, to finally
Yeah.
say I'm leaving. And during that year, oh my goodness, I would go back and forth. I'd have days where, things were sort of ticking along okay, and I'd say to myself, what are you complaining about? This is okay. You
Mm-hmm.
can do this. And then, of course, I'd have those days where the stuff that really bothered me and that, really made me miserable would come to the fore and would compel me to keep moving forward and looking for other solutions, other answers. And I think the piece that, really kind of rocked me in the beginning was when I started working with a coach, and I started learning this concept that we essentially create our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I didn't believe that before. I guess I just didn't quite take the time to understand it and to really think about it, because of course, if you do, it means taking responsibility for everything that's showing up in your life,
Right.
even
Yeah.
all the stuff that you don't like.
Right.
And that's a hard pill to swallow at the beginning. It's kind of like, wait a minute, I don't like this, but you're telling me that I created it? Why would I have created this for myself? It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, it took me a while to really wrap
Yeah.
my head around that and to really understand, okay, well, if that's all true, why would I have created this world for myself? Why would I be living this life right
Mm-hmm.
now and choosing it? Because that's the other thing, right? We don't realize sometimes we have choices, but we
Right.
do. We make choices every day that impact what happens in our life. So I think those sort of really key concepts at the beginning, it took me a while to really come to terms with them. And I think that's true for a lot of people, because really stepping into the ownership of what's going on and realizing, okay, it is really about me. It's not about the situation. It's not about other people. It's not about saying, okay, well, when this changes or that person
Mm.
leaves or they fix this or they do that differently, then I'll be happy. No, it's really up to you. And but what's really nice about that, the other side of it is, once you realize that, you can also then start to embrace the idea that you have all the answers that you need,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
All those burning questions that we have. What should I do? What's the best thing for me? All those sort of questions that we just look for all these different outside solutions or people to answer them for us. No, you have all the answers. You have that all inside you. And most of us don't really know how to access that. But once you can get in touch with yourself and access those answers, then you really can start following a path that's in alignment with who you truly are and what you truly want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of explain that in the book, is how do you access that part of you? How do
That's
you
so
essentially,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, quiet that, you said this earlier, that negative chit chat, quiet that, and listen to the other voice that you have, which is your true self, which is the one that does have your best interests at heart. And so how to get in touch with that and to listen for those answers so that you can take guided action.
That's perfect. This is what we all are looking for, because we know what we want. Actually, we do. But, all those doubts and those questions and like that negative chit chat, it's so hard. It's hard to go beyond that, deep within, where you find that quiet oasis of your heart, and you can just tap in there and just, all the questions are answered, right? Everything just comes in place.
Exactly. And it can be as simple as just quieting your mind, quieting those, that negative, all those things. We're not good enough. We're not smart enough. All that stuff that we all have rolling around in our heads. And in that stillness, you can hear those answers. But we're also busy, right? We're also busy, like moving to the next thing, getting this done, getting that done, got to go here, got to go there. And believe me, I'm as guilty as the next person of that. So this is not a criticism at all. But just finding just a little space and time. And all I'm talking about is literally 5 or 10 minutes a day. I'm not talking about, gee, you got to sequester yourself and, go into some meditative trance state to do this. No. It's very accessible. It's very simple, but it does require you to essentially just take that 5 or 10 minutes and be with yourself.
That's awesome. But tell me, Alex, and maybe we can move to that question after the break, but, financial security is really something very important, right? I know, you were financially secure, right? You were at the top of your career when you made the switch. But there are so many people who are living paycheck to paycheck, and it's very hard. They might be miserable in their job, but it's really hard to leave the job and,
Yes, absolutely. And, you're right. I was fortunate enough to take some time out before embarking on my new path. But, for people who are not in that position, and so many of us are not, I would say 3 things.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Have you bought into the idea that you have to work hard for your money, that business is hard? I will share some dynamic access consciousness tools to get you out of your own way so you can create a business that actually succeeds. Join me, Simone Millisers, on The Joy of Business at 4 p.m. Mondays Eastern.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on OMTimes Radio.
And we are back. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Monica.
Hi. So we were talking about how to, how to make that leap when you have financial issues or, You're just stuck because of
Yeah.
your...
Yeah, absolutely. And let me be very clear. I would not advise, if you are not financially secure, I wouldn't advise people to just quit their job on the spot because they're not enjoying it and just figure it out from there. I think it takes incremental change.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, 3 things I would say if you're in that situation where you know you want change, but it's not financially feasible for you to do it right now. The first thing is, start with just devoting a little time every day to the subject of you. Even if it's only 10 minutes, just what I was talking about earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do that inner work. Take a small step every day on your personal development journey and think about, really get clear on what it is that you want, right? Like you said earlier, hey, we all actually know that, but we may not realize we know it. And boy, is that true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I ask my clients all the time, well, what do you actually want? And it's like deer in headlights, because we're very clear on what we don't want. And you can start there. You can look at that and start to get clear. Okay, well, if I don't want that, what do I want? So take that time. And, you know, if you think it's difficult to set aside 10 minutes every day, I mean, let me just say it's 1% of a day. And if you don't think about your life, if you don't take 10 minutes each day to contemplate your own life and where you're headed and how you might be able to make these changes, who the heck is going to do it? No one else is coming along to do that for you, right? It really is up to you. So give yourself that time, just 5-10 minutes every day. And the second thing is, be consistent with it. And I really mean every day when I say it. It has a compound effect. Those little things that we do every single day, they build on one another. And when you can do something positive for yourself, for your personal development every day, it will build over time and you will see some of the results that you're looking for. Mm-hmm. And then the third thing I would say is, remember that, you know, if you're looking for this calling or this higher purpose or this sense of fulfillment, it doesn't necessarily have to be a new career or a new vocation. It doesn't have to mean that you quit your job, right? Mm-hmm. You could begin that by, engaging in a hobby that you love, or it could mean getting involved in a charity or a cause that you feel passionately drawn to. Mm-hmm. It's about what sparks motivation and desire within you, what drives you to want to be involved in something. And that can take any number of forms. So, I mean, let's say you're stuck in this dead-end job and you really want to be helping people in some way.
Right.
Well, the first thing is we need to get clear on, okay, well, what way do you want to help them, mm-hmm. right? What are you passionate about? Are you passionate about people? Are you passionate about animals? Maybe it's animals. So maybe you are volunteering to help at your local pet rescue to begin with, to try that on, to see if that's something you're interested in. And then over time, if it is, maybe there's, you look for other opportunities. If you're really dead set that, well, I want to work with animals full time. That's what I want to do. I know now that that's my passion. Mm-hmm. Then you can start to look for those different opportunities, but it doesn't have to be this kind of, I have to make this leap. I have to just quit my job and then start making money doing what I love. I think there's ways to build that bridge so that you can do it more incrementally and it doesn't feel so shocking. And it also doesn't put any kind, that sort of scary financial burden on yourself at the same time.
That makes sense. That totally makes sense because, like you said, we don't necessarily need to leave everything and, just do it 100% of the time. If the desire is to help and if we can identify what it is that we want to do, we can start while, still working.
Yeah, absolutely. And try it on, because that's the other thing. When we're looking for something new, mm-hmm. or something different. I mean, let's say you really hate what you're doing right now. The temptation can be to do a 180 on it, mm-hmm. and look for something that is just so completely different. And yeah. I get that, because it's like you want to just leave it all behind.
Right.
But sometimes that's not what it is. It's not the right path. And so if you do some of these things and get involved, to try it on and see, do I actually like this? Just to stick with my example that I used, do I actually enjoy being around animals all day? You might think you do because you love your dog and you play with your dog all the time, but then you're dealing with lots of other different cases, and maybe you find out that, gee, that's not really for me actually after all. And by trying that on, by exploring it, you've saved yourself that time of, well, I quit and I knew I wanted to do this, so I did this. And then you feel stuck because now you took this new job.
Yeah.
It's not working either. So that idea of trying things on and maybe realizing, oh, this is a little bit too far different from what I was doing before. Maybe I need to look for something that is still aligned with some of the skills and the knowledge that I've built over time and what I'm doing, but there's a different way to use it. And it doesn't have to be such a radically different thing that I do. So there's a lot of merit in that. Just as you said, start it, find a way to get involved somehow and do that trying on to see if it is the right path. Cause you'll discover pretty quickly if it is or not.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I can say that from my example, how, even though, I love helping people and the path is the same, but how it has evolved over time, how I like to do it differently or different things. So you are absolutely right about that. It's not like we know everything right that moment and, just quit and just give up what we have and just get started on that path.
I think that's such a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. Because it unfolds over time. You may start down some path and think that, it's going to be exactly the way you have it planned. And suddenly you're on a little detour, but that detour is taking you in more the direction that you need to go. And so I think that that's part of it too. It's not about figuring this out overnight. We live in this very instant gratification society, of course, and we want things to be figured out immediately. We want to find that, that silver bullet solution and hey, presto, we're good to go. The reality is it ain't that. I'm going to be honest. It takes time. It takes time to work through some of these things and see the path that you're meant to be on. But that's all part of the journey, right? That's all part of the learning and the experience. So, okay, you tried something and maybe it didn't work out, but what have you learned from that? That's actually a great thing because now that's not the right thing for you. Okay, then use that to get a little clearer on what is. If it's not that, then what might it be instead? So all these little steps that you take on the journey, they're all opportunities to learn and to become more self-aware of, what am I creating? What is it that I really want to do? What is the path that I want to be on?
All right. That's so important. Thank you so much. I think this is something, this, like you said, comes with inner work, right? Of course, this is a very good advice that just don't leave everything and make a switch. But it's like start taking small steps and also keep doing that inner work for more clarity.
Absolutely. The inner work is critical because, forgive me, I forget who said this, but wherever you go, there you are. So if you are not, let's say you're not enjoying your work environment and you feel like, okay, well, if I can just get a better job, I'll be happy. It won't be like this. It'll be all so much better and I'll be so much more fulfilled. Maybe, but then again, you're essentially taking yourself with you to the new job, right? So, and happiness doesn't come from other things changing. We have this idea that, well, once I get the new house, I'll be happy. Once I get that fabulous new car, I'll be happy. Once I have the job I want, I'll be happy. No, it's all backwards. You got to be happy first and then you find the success. And finding that happiness first is the inner work. It's coming to terms with, okay, what are some of these limiting beliefs that I am carrying around? What are the needs that they are creating? and I talk about this in the book, I talk about how to recognize your limiting beliefs and then how to release them and replace them with new beliefs that better serve you. And one of the ones I had, which so many people have, is you're not good enough. You're not smart.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What the heck, makes you think that you can do this? And here I am still believing that, even though I've made it to the top of my field. I mean, it's crazy, right? I mean, It's just sort of, when you look at it objectively, it's like, really? We're still on this negative track? What is the deal here? So I went back and looked at, okay, where did that come from? Mm-hmm. And so often those beliefs come from our childhood, whatever we may have heard from parents or, other sort of adults or figures of authority in our life. We absorb all that. Mm-hmm. And that's not to point any blame. I mean, people are doing the best they can, but guess what? They're bringing their own set of limited beliefs to the picture, right?
Right.
So, but then if we don't realize that we have these, and we don't realize the needs that they're creating, so this belief that I'm not good enough, well, that creates a need for some people and for me to always be available for my clients, always do everything perfectly, always agree to like these crazy timelines. And it's all give to sort of prove that, oh, I am good enough. I am smart enough. Yeah. Well, if you just sort of feed that needy energy all the time, there's nothing left for you. And so it's really looking at that and saying, gee, let's just look back at, and I call it evidence of success. When we do look at those beliefs and say, well, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe that's all true. Maybe that voice inside my head is totally true. I always ask people to look back at evidence of success. Well, when were you good enough? Because I know that there's plenty of examples of that. Mm-hmm. And start looking for that and say, well, gee, if I did that, then surely I can do this. And you're right. I have done this. I have done that. I overcame fear here. I did this. And look at those things and start to realize, it's not true. You are good enough. You absolutely are good enough just as you are. And start making that shift in your mind so that you essentially flip it on its head, right?
Yeah.
Instead of, well, you're not smart enough. It's like, hey, what if you are smart enough? What then? What does that mean?
Such a beautiful thing. And we'll come back to it after a short break. So please stay with us.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
The name is Bond. James Bond.
No, the name is Joe, The Joe Show. And we are returning back for our 9th season here on OMTimes Radio. So tune in every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, on omtimes.com/mobile. You can take us wherever you go. Yeah!
connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back, Alex. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Listeners. So yeah, we were talking about, the going back to what you have accomplished. What did you do best?
What did I do best? That is a great question. When I look back on my journey, I think the thing that I feel I've accomplished best is making the transition from this sort of what I call my old life into the new life. And what's really interesting about that is at one point I felt that I might be making that 180-degree switch into moving from this sort of corporate professional research world into coaching and writing and speaking. And that was a little bit unnerving to me because I was wondering, am I on the right path? I mean, it feels like I am, but it does seem really different. And then what I realized was, and this is what I talk to people about a lot too, is that actually I was taking many of the skills and the knowledge and the abilities that I had built over time in my profession, in my corporate life, and transferring them. So with the writing, I had been writing it throughout my entire career. I was writing research reports, but now I was using it to write in a different way.
Yeah.
Same with the speaking. I mean, I would be constantly doing presentations and appearing on panels. I used to do TV shows when I was doing this too, especially during election time, because some of the research I did was political or public policy. And now I was speaking again, but in just a slightly different format. I was talking about something different. And the same thing with the coaching. I realized, okay, you've been advising and coaching organizations and people within them, based on sort of the results of the research. What does it mean? What is the strategy here? What does it mean for the company going forward? What are the recommendations that we have? And that is a form of coaching. So it was really wonderful to me that when I realized that, I sort of had the epiphany of, oh, wait a minute. This isn't a 180 at all. I'm actually taking some of the core skills that I have and talents that I have and essentially using them, but in a different way on a different platform. And so that for me made the transition even more exciting and even more manageable because it gave me a lot of confidence in what I was doing. I already knew that I was good at those core abilities. So now it was a case of just sort of shifting onto this different platform and using them in a slightly different way.
And I think it is true for all of us. No matter what we do, there are skills from that particular job that are, and that we have mastered, even though we feel, we don't like our jobs, but there are always certain skills that can totally be transferred to what we want to do. And, that's our strength.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's sort of, and that kind of feeds into what I was saying a little bit earlier about, when people really hate what they're doing and they really do want to do something completely different, right? And I do get that. But sometimes it's not about that. Sometimes it is about looking at, okay, well, maybe I hate the job, but what are the aspects that I do like? Or what are the skills that I have learned or that I use that I actually do enjoy? And how might I use those in a different way? Then it's not necessarily the 180. Then it is about sort of transferring what you have into this new platform, into this new purpose.
That's such an important point that, I have read so many self-help books, but I mean, this is something beautiful and very big that you brought up, Alex, and thank you so much. I think there is so much different in your book. There is so much, these are like it's so simple, right? It's like it would click, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't come to us.
I know. It's funny. Some of the ideas, the concepts, even the tools that I provide in the book, some of them are incredibly simple. And the processes in there that I provide for people to work through some of these things, they are incredibly simple. Mm-hmm. What the challenge, because there is a challenge, because otherwise, why would we have these self-help books, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, there is a challenge, clearly. The challenge, of course, is working through them, is actually working through all that inner work and being consistent with it and sort of showing up each day for yourself, committing to yourself that you are a priority. Your life and where you want it to go is an actual priority. It requires time. And instead of sort of giving away time like you do to everybody else, it's like, hey, reserve some time for yourself. So yeah, I think the ideas, the processes, the things to do, they are simple in and of themselves, just at face value. But the challenge is in sort of working through them and moving through the journey and the process itself.
So, Alex, tell us, how is your book different?
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for asking that question, because there are obviously a million self-help books out there, right? I have to say, I think the key difference is this. Several books, in the personal development world, look at one specific aspect of self-help or personal development. And that's absolutely great if you're ready for a deep dive in one topic. But if you're not sure where to begin or even why you're stuck or why you're having these feelings that you're stuck, my book is a place to start because it's a soup to nuts guide. It gives you a full roadmap for how to identify what's keeping you stuck, which, by the way, may not be what you think. It may not always, be what it seems. Where that came from, how you can change it, and better yet, how you can move to a place where you're truly creating that life that you want, where you are finding your passion, where you are finding fulfillment. So it takes you all the way from totally stuck, not knowing how to change this, to freedom and realizing how you have the power. And it provides a lot of different tools and exercises throughout the book to help you do that, to help you kind of unravel it all and start to get that clarity.
That's so awesome. That's great. I mean, anything that's your favorite or the part that you want to discuss with the audience or, let them know is very powerful.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the processes and the steps, I think, there's really there's 12 chapters in the book, but there's really 7 steps that I cover in there. And, the first one really is to understand what's keeping you stuck. Like I said, it's not always what it seems to be or what it appears to be. To reprogram your mind so you can release those limiting and long-held beliefs about yourself and others. And that is such a crucial step. Because unless you really recognize what those beliefs are and you release them, you're going to have problems in terms of moving ahead in a effective way. Because those things are the things that are going on in your subconscious, right? And that subconscious mind is 85% versus the 15% of the conscious mind. So when you think about it that way, that subconscious has a lot of power over us. So really, how do you reprogram and release? Then to connect with your true self and recognize that you do already have all those answers to your burning questions. We look at how to release the past and the resentment and any anger you may be holding onto, how to forgive, how to release that once and for all. And then moving forward, how do you embrace the present and the future and being open to possibilities, not being sort of, blinkered in your vision, but recognizing that there could be multiple possibilities and sort of, as we talked about earlier, exploring those, trying those on, how to clear your mind so you can find space and time to create, and how to find that quiet time that we talked about earlier. And then, and this is the sort of the holy grail piece of it, right? Having done all those things, you arrive at a place where you can actually truly begin to identify what you really want and looking at what is my calling, what is my higher purpose. But it's not until you clear all those other things that are kind of in your way that you can actually get to that place where you can identify that and start looking at what are my action steps to actually move forward and create that for myself.
Mm-hmm. So can you explain what is this reprogramming process that you discuss in the book?
Yes, absolutely. In terms of the reprogramming process, so we all have these limiting beliefs that we're walking around with. Mm-hmm. And we talked about them a little bit earlier in terms of, some of the big ones are, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. And until you recognize that you have those. So the book talks about sort of looking backwards in terms of where did it come from? Where did that particular belief happen? And it's not so that we dwell on it. It's not so that we, psychoanalyze that, but it's really just to find out where did it come from? Because that can be really, really helpful in terms of recognizing that it was someone else's belief, not ours. And that is really a key point. Lots of these beliefs that we're walking around with, we've adopted them as our own.
They're
not really ours. They're not ours. They're not our beliefs. And is it really serving me anymore to keep walking around thinking I'm not good enough? Is that going to help me? Well, gee, no, I don't think it, it's not. Mm-hmm. So what can you replace it with? And that's sort of that's a key point, because you don't want to put a belief in there that you don't actually credibly buy into, because that will sort of undermine your effort. Like, I'll give you my own example. When I was working through this with my own coach, and she was saying, you are good enough just as you are. I had a really tough time with that just as I am thing, because I'd lived for so long putting my value and worth in how much I produced, how productive I was, how useful I was, right? And so this notion of I'm good enough just as I am, gee, I don't know about that. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. But I was able to get to a place where I could say, you are good enough. And the just as I am part came a little bit later.
It's great. And we will be back after a very short break. So please stay with us.
Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hey ladies, do you want to have that good hair day feeling all the time? Gentlemen, would you want your special someone to have that glow, letting you know she is feeling completely satisfied? This feeling and that glow can be yours by embracing your sexual power. So join me, Rachel Kenley, award-winning romance author, on the O-Spot. The O-Spot will guide you to that peak with guest interviews, book discussions, and conversations on the thrills of sexual empowerment. Put the zing back in your life. Come up and see me sometime on the O-Spot, live on Hump Day at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Simone Milasas would like you to know that business can be fun, which is why she wrote the book, Joy of Business. What if you could have the joy of business rather than the stress and struggle? Most of the time, the only thing stopping you from a thriving business is you. In the Joy of Business book, Simone gives you access consciousness tools and pragmatic ways to get out of your own way and to create the business, life, and living you know is possible and beyond what this reality says is achievable. Business is joy. It's creation. It's generative. It can be the adventure of living. You can purchase your copy of the book through Amazon or Joy of Business website, www.accessjoyofbusiness.com. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Hi. This is Angela Levesque, host of Entanglement Radio. Join me Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern for inspiring conversations with visionaries in spiritual science and conscious healing. Entanglement Radio, Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern. Transcendent talk for the conscious mind.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
And we are back, and I would like to share with our audience that Alex's book is available on Amazon.com and also AlexBrattyBooks.com. So I would really, really encourage you to get a copy for yourself. It's a wonderful book, and it's very, very helpful from beginning to the end, getting you unstuck and helping you reprogram those negative beliefs that we were talking about. So welcome back, Alex, and let's talk more about reprogramming.
Thank you, and thank you for saying it's on Amazon. And just to repeat the title, it's From Chaos to Clarity: Getting Unstuck and Creating a Life You Love.
Thank you. So, so let's talk about the reprogramming process that we were discussing earlier.
Yeah. So the other way I talk about this is, these beliefs that we have, they're in our subconscious. And the way I like to think about it is, think of it like a computer. Mm-hmm. You use the desktop applications and you don't think much beyond that. But underneath all that is the operating system that makes everything work. Mm-hmm. And of course, obviously, unless we know computer programming, we don't even stop to think about that. We know nothing about it. But our subconscious beliefs are like that operating system. And unless we become aware of them and assess whether they're serving us well, we can stay stuck in place in a pattern or a behavior or just, operating from that limiting belief without even realizing it. And so the process I have in the book is really quite simple. But you're right that when we were talking earlier about, the simplicity of some of these processes, but what's challenging is working through it, right? It takes more than just reading through it. It requires, a good deal of commitment to actually work through the steps, mm-hmm. to do the exercises and the inner reflection, because obviously we have to do some inner work to actually identify the limiting belief. Mm-hmm. There's a reason it's in your subconscious. There's a reason it's a limiting belief, because you probably don't realize you have it. So the book helps you uncover that. So what are those limiting beliefs? And as I mentioned before the break, it also walks you through how do you sort of pinpoint, like, where did that come from? Was it my parents? Was it a teacher? Was it a sibling? Mm-hmm. Sometimes people can say things and they just get locked inside us, right? It was an offhand comment to that adult at the time, but as a child, we absorbed it, and it may be something that has become a limiting belief for us. So it walks you through how to do that, where it came from, and then it also talks about how you can release that, right? Look at the different ways that you can look at it differently, in the sense that, does this really have to be my belief anymore? If this came from my parents, and I've had it for, 20, 30, 40 years, does that mean that I still have to go along with it? Does it mean that I need to live by this belief anymore? And usually the answer to that is no, it's not my belief. I don't need to have this belief anymore. I don't need to be sort of subscribing to this program, as it were. Mm-hmm. And so that's the beginning of being able to release it. Now, of course, when you release it, you've got a vacuum, right? There's a space there. And it's up to you then to fill it with what you want. Because if you don't, then something else is going to come up, right? And just sort of fill it by default. It's, right. That vacuum is going to get filled with something. So the book also, in the process, it talks you through how to essentially create that new belief and to do it in a way that is productive. I mean, that's what I was sort of talking about when we were going to the break. There's no point creating a belief for yourself that you're actually not buying into. That's going to be counterproductive. That's going to put you back, not move you forward. Mm-hmm. So it can be about doing this in steps. And that's the beauty of this thing. It's not that, you do this process once and you're done. You can go back to it time and again. So with my earlier example of, you're good enough just as you are, once I became comfortable with the idea that I was good enough, period, right? That I could sort of wrap my head around that, because that alone was a pretty new concept for me to be working with. Then I could go back and add on the just as I am piece. But it took me a long time to add that just as I am. I couldn't have done that out of the gate. That would have been too much for me. And it would have put me backwards, because it would have been like, I don't get any of this stuff. I'm not buying into it. So what's the point, So the book shows you, how do you create a belief that really it's realistic for where you are. It's going to help you move forward. It's going to progress you on your journey, and it's going to serve you well. I mean, that's the whole point. These limiting beliefs are not serving us anymore.
Right.
They might have at some point, but not anymore. And so that's the whole idea, is to create that new belief and to start essentially putting that into your programming system and believing it and thinking it. And how do you do that? So it gives you little different tools and techniques for how do you actually start to think that a lot instead of thinking the other thing a lot, right? It's sort of retraining your brain to go to that positive place rather than that negative place.
Yeah. So, I mean, Alex, do you think of course, by reading the book, someone can do it for themselves. But do you think having a coach or a friend or a partner would help?
Yeah, I think having a coach is very helpful. I mean, obviously I am a coach too. And so I use those processes in the book with my clients. And sometimes, certainly at the beginning of a journey, it is a little easier to sort of have a coach facilitate that and help you move through some of these things, ask those questions and sort of keep you focused, in that space. In terms of having a partner or a friend, yes, you could certainly do that. I think that becomes a little more challenging though, unless the partner or friend is fairly self-aware and sort of on their own journey, right? I don't know that you want to do this with someone who's sort of poo-pooing the idea that you have limiting beliefs or that they can be changed. If you want to have a sort of an accountability partner, a friend to do it with, make sure you choose well and choose someone who, like you, wants to move forward and wants to be on this journey and wants to explore all of this. So just choose well there.
So Alex, I mean, I know you are based in Vegas, and I know you are a motivational speaker and you have your coaching program based on the book, but are you able to do remote coaching for people?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, a lot of my coaching work is over the phone or over Skype, or some people use Zoom. Technology is so wonderful these days that our location no longer limits us. So yes, I do a lot of that, and I think that sometimes people sort of question, well, gee, will it work over the phone? Well, rather than in person? It does. It absolutely does. Sometimes I have clients say to me, I was a little worried about doing this over the phone to begin with, but I actually like it more because I just, there's no sort of worry of like going somewhere, and then, sometimes they feel like they can open up more on the phone or over Skype. So it works very, very well to do it.
I mean, they are comfortable in their own space, and
yes,
it's
exactly
just effective for everyone. So I would really encourage audience to, buy your book, and also for very effective results, I think it would be great to have you as a coach initially.
Yes, I would be happy to do that. I mean, my mission is really to help people get unstuck. And actually, as part of the book tour, I am offering free consultation sessions to help your listeners get unstuck. So if you want to get in touch with me, my website is alexbratty.com, ALEXBRATTY.com, or you can email me directly Alex, ALEX, at alexbratty.com. And I am offering that free consultation if anybody wants to sort of talk with me more and share where they're at and where they want to go. And sort of, I can talk to them about how to build that bridge.
That's so awesome.
As well as obviously the book. The book is obviously a helpful tool, but if people feel like they need a little bit more than just the book, I am here, and that's what I do. I get people unstuck.
That's so wonderful. This is extremely helpful, Alex. And I mean, your book is something that so many of us need. So thank you so much for that. Any last message that you would like to share with our audience? Any tips, any message?
Very quickly, just 3 tips to just get some forward momentum. Hit the pause button. Just take a moment, just hit that pause button. And, even if you don't like where you're at right now, accept it for what it is. Just take a step back from your situation, look at it as though you're like a neutral observer, and just accept it, because until you accept it, you cannot change it. That's a really important piece. The second thing is, start identifying what you want in life. And I mean really, like some details, not just, I want life to be easier. No, that's too vague, right? If you're finding that difficult, start making a list of the things that you don't like and that you don't want in your life, and use those to then say, okay, well, if I don't want that, then what is it that I do want? That can help you get a lot of clarity. And then the third thing I would say is start paying attention to your thoughts and where you place your focus. Because whatever you think inside, whatever you feel, it all contributes. All that stuff that we think and feel inside, it contributes to the outward reality that we create.
So true.
And so, it's very easy to get caught up in all that negative stuff and say what sucks and all the rest of it. But if you do that, you get more of it. So change your thoughts, look at the positive, and you'll get more of that instead.
Wow. Thank you so much, Alex. We are so grateful to have you. Thank you so much, audience. Namaste.